It is Tuesday, March 21st, 2023, 3:05 p.m. My name is Kessie Ian Anderson, and welcome back for another edition of Heresiarch. In this edition, I want to talk about a concept that I've known about for a long time. I've just never brought it up. I have in a nebulous way, but I've never zeroed in on it. And to me, it's quite possibly one of the coolest occult concepts that's out there. And that's called the Egregore. Now, for Egregore, I'm going to bring up the book of Enoch because it brings up the term watcher. And watcher has been equated to Egregore. It's ancient Greek, Egregoros, wakeful. It's an occult concept representing a non-physical entity that arises from the collective thoughts of a distinct group of people. Historically, the concept referred to angelic beings, or watchers, and the specific rituals and practices associated with them, namely within Enochian traditions. In more recent times, the concept has referred to a psychic manifestation or a thought form which occurs when any group shares a common motivation, being made up of and influencing the thoughts of the group. The concept of egregorial powers has its roots in the Book of Enoch. Later, the term and concept found its way into other languages. Manuscrit Trouvé à Saragosse, or The Manuscript Found in Saragossa, was a novel written in French by the Polish author Count Jan Potocki in the Russian Empire in the early 19th century, which features the term egregores, referring to the most illustrious of fallen angels. The term egregore was also used by the French author Victor Hugo in La Légende des Siècles, The Legend of the Ages, where he uses the word egregore first as an adjective, then as a noun, while leaving the meaning obscure. Eliphas Levi in Le Grand Arcane, The Great Secret, in 1868, identifies egregores with the tradition concerning the Watchers, the fathers of the Nephilim, describing them as terrible beings that crush us without pity because they are unaware of our existence. Another concept of the egregore is the Gotos, Gradius Ordines Templi Orientis Saturni, of the Fraternitas Saturn. The Fraternity of Saturn. So if you understand Saturnaliaism and who that's referring to, the occult, Aleister Crowley, Judaism. Well, egregore also means ill in Hebrew. Now, I will say the biggest egregore, and I think that's why time is speeding up, is because people are seeing through the curtain that the cabal has to make do on the egregores that they've put out to us. I would argue the biggest egregore or idea overtaking or being put out by most of Christian humanity or the Christian group is the idea of Jesus' return or the return of a Messiah. And my argument is and will be that when we see this character, it's not going to be what is expected. So now I'm going to jump into the book of Enoch. Now, to get to it, I'm going to read a chapter out of the book of Enoch. And again, if you're Christian and your only truth belongs in the Bible, then this isn't for you. But if you are curious as to what this says, this kind of paints a new picture on Noah's Ark and the flood. Now, I'm in the book of Enoch, Enoch, however you want to say it. Enoch chapter 6, I guess this is a chapter. The way they have it written out, it's just verse upon verse put together. And it came to pass when the children of men had multiplied, that in those days were born unto them beautiful and comely daughters. And the angels, the children of the heaven, saw and lusted after them, and said to one another, Come, let us choose wives from among the children of men, and beget us children. And Shamjaza, who was their leader, said unto them, I fear ye will not indeed agree to do this deed, and I alone shall have to pay the penalty of a great sin. And they all answered him and said, Let us all swear an oath, and all bind ourselves by mutual imprecations not to abandon this plan, but to do this thing. Then swear they all together and bound themselves by mutual imprecations upon it. And they were in all 200 who descended in the days of Jared on the summit of Mount Hermon. And they called it Mount Hermon, because they had sworn and bound themselves by mutual imprecations upon it. And these are the names of their leaders: Samizaz, their leader, Arakaba, Ramiel, Kokabil, Tamiel, Ramael, Daniel, Ezekiel, Barakiel, Asael, Armoros, Batarel, Ananel, Zakiel, Samsapil, Satarel, Torel, Jomjel, Sariel. These are their chiefs of tens. And all the others together with them took unto themselves wives, and each chose for himself one. And they began to go in unto them, and to defile themselves with them. And they taught them charms and enchantments, and the cutting of roots, and made them acquainted with plants. And they became pregnant, and they bare great giants, whose height was 3,000 ells, who consumed all the acquisitions of men. And when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind. And they began to sin against birds and beasts and reptiles and fish, and to devour one another's flesh and drink the blood. Then the earth laid accusation against the lawless ones. And Azazel taught men to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates, and made known to them the metals of the earth, and the art of working them, and bracelets and ornaments, and the use of antimony, and the beautifying of the eyelids, and all kinds of costly stones, and all coloring tinctures. And there arose much godlessness, and they committed fornication, and they were led astray, and became corrupt in all their ways. Semjaza taught enchantments and root cuttings, Armoros the resolving of enchantments, Barakael taught astrology, Kokabil the constellations, Ezekiel the knowledge of the clouds, Arakiel the signs of the earth, Shamziel the signs of the sun, and Sariel the course of the moon. And as men perished, they cried, and their cry went up to heaven. And then Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel looked down from heaven and saw much blood being shed upon the earth, and all lawlessness being wrought upon the earth. And they said one to another, The earth made without inhabitant cries the voice of their crying, up to the gates of heaven. And now to you, the holy ones of heaven, the souls of men make their suit, saying, Bring our cause before the Most High. And they said to the Lord of the ages, Lord of lords, God of gods, King of kings, and God of the ages, the throne of thy glory standeth unto all the generations of the ages, and thy name holy and glorious and blessed unto all the ages. Thou hast made all things, and power over all things hast thou. And all things are naked and open in thy sight, and all things thou seest, and nothing can hide itself from thee. Thou seest what Azazel hath done, who hath taught all unrighteousness on earth, and revealed the eternal secrets which were preserved in heaven, which men were striving to learn. And Semjaza, to whom thou hast given authority to bear rule over his associates. And they have gone to the daughters of men upon the earth, and have slept with the women, and have defiled themselves, and revealed to them all kinds of sins. And the women have borne giants, and the whole earth has thereby been filled with blood and unrighteousness. And now behold, the souls of those who have died are crying and making their suit to the gates of heaven, and their lamentations have ascended, and cannot cease, because of the lawless deeds which are wrought on the earth. And thou knowest all things before they come to pass, and thou seest these things, and thou dost suffer them, and thou dost not say to us, What are we to do to them in regard to these? Then said the Most High, the Holy and Great One spake, and sent Uriel to the son of Lamech, and said to him, Go to Noah, and tell him in my name, Hide thyself, and reveal to him the end that is approaching, that the whole earth will be destroyed, and a deluge is about to come upon the whole earth, and will destroy all that is on it. And now instruct him that he may escape, and his seed may be preserved for all the generations of the world. And again the Lord said to Raphael, Bind Azazel hand and foot, and cast him into the darkness, and make an opening in the desert, which is in Dudael, and cast him therein. And place upon him rough and jagged rocks, and cover him with darkness, and let him abide there forever, and cover his face that he may not see light. And on the day of the great judgment he shall be cast into the fire. And heal the earth which the angels have corrupted, and proclaim the healing of the earth, that they may heal the plague, and that all the children of men may not perish, through all the secret things that the watchers have disclosed, and have taught their sons. and the whole earth has been corrupted through the works that were taught by Azazel. To him ascribe all sin. And to Gabriel said the Lord, proceed against the bastards and the reprobates, and against the children of fornication, and destroy the children of fornication and the children of the watchers from amongst men, and cause them to go forth. Send them one against the other, that they may destroy each other in battle. For length of days shall they not have. And no request that they, i.e. their fathers, make of thee, shall be granted unto their fathers on their behalf, for they hope to live an eternal life, and that each one of them will live 500 years. And the Lord said unto Michael, go bind Semjaza and his associates who have united themselves with women, so as to have defiled themselves with them in all their uncleanness. And when their sons have slain one another, and they have seen the destruction of their beloved ones, bind them fast for 70 generations in the valleys of the earth, till the day of their judgment and of their consummation, till the judgment that is forever and ever is consummated. In those days they shall be led off to the abyss of fire, and to the torment and prison in which they shall be confined forever. And whosoever shall be condemned and destroyed will from thenceforth be bound together with them to the end of all generations, and destroy all the spirits of the reprobate and the children of the watchers, because they have wronged mankind. Destroy all wrong from the face of the earth, and let every evil work come to an end, and let the plant of righteousness and truth appear. And it shall prove a blessing, the works of righteousness and truth, shall be planted in truth and joy forevermore. And then shall all the righteous escape, and shall live till they beget thousands of children. And all the days of their youth and their old age shall they complete in peace. Now there's a bunch of interesting tidbits that I can take from this. One that fascinated me was when Semjaza, who was their leader, and said unto them, I fear ye will not indeed agree to do this deed, and I alone shall have to pay the penalty of a great sin. And they all answered him and said, let us all swear an oath, and all bind ourselves by mutual imprecations not to abandon this plan, but to do this thing. So for those in the truther community who jumped into the Pizzagate and other information, Epstein Island, human trafficking, etc., Hollywood, a gentleman showed up on one of the forums. They called him Hollywood Anon, and he said all of these Warner Brothers, Paramount, Universal, all of these major Hollywood studios, they all work on the idea of mutual blackmail. They're all blackmailed. They all have dirt on each other. And it goes along, interesting enough, that this book of Enoch, that they all swear and bind themselves in mutual imprecations. So it's mutual blackmail. So basically, we all hang together or we all hang separate. Now, when I look at this book of Enoch, it almost seems like this gives another reason as to the flood. Not just sin. It was these giants were literally laying waste to the earth and eating all of the children of Adam. So there's a big old war between giants and people, it seems. And then their punishment was they were put into the earth in different places. That's an interesting concept because some people say that the elites have their underground bunkers, etc. What just is going on underground? Me personally, if it was offered to go and be, hey, come with us if you want to live moment, I'll pass. I'm going to stay up on the surface. So that's just me. You do what you like. Now, another concept which leads into the Egregore idea is the Watchers. The book of Enoch kind of leads you to think that these are angels or they're actually part of the giants. It's quite a bit more nuanced than that. But an Egregore, I will argue, every single human in the world is under the influence of an Egregore. It's kind of a banner. It's an idea that people rally behind. So let's go to Theosophy Wiki, and an egregore is a group thought form. It can be created either intentionally or unintentionally and becomes an autonomous entity with the power to influence. A group with a common purpose, like a family, a club, a political party, a church, or a country, can create an egregore, for better or worse, depending on the type of thought that created it. The concept was discussed in early theosophical literature and is well known in esoteric thought, but it is not a mainstream idea. In discussing egregores, Helena Petrovna Blavatsky wrote, "Every thought so evolved with energy from the brain creates nolens volens, willingly or unwillingly, a shape." Continuing, she states that such a shape is absolutely unconscious unless it is the creation of an adept, who has a preconceived object in giving it, the thought form, consciousness, or rather the appearance of consciousness derived from the adept's will and consciousness. Theosophists first brought the idea of a thought form to the public mind with Annie Besant and C.W. Leadbitter's book, Thought Forms in the early 20th century. So an egregore is an idea. It's a concept. I'm going to argue that today the media is responsible for 95 to 99% of the egregores. Military intelligence is involved in creating egregores. MK Ultra is responsible for an egregore. Pastors, teachers, anybody in a position of authority that people look up to is responsible for creating an egregore. Egregore is an idea that takes on a life of its own. I will argue most of them are astroturfed. Most of them are lies. Most of them are artificial, which is why I don't see people doing much unless it is an organic egregore that has true power. So for example, let's take a lot of liberal ideas. Let's take Black Lives Matter, for example. If you follow the money to its end conclusion, you will find out that the people who created or profited off of Black Lives Matter was basically everybody but the black community. However, BLM has taken on an egregore of its own. Q for the right. If you see a Q hat or Q paraphernalia, that to me is an egregore. Now, I will argue that one has a shred more power just because some of the ideas behind it, if you've read through the Q drops, you can see where factual information was dropped and it has been confirmed. Now, there's a whole lot that we are waiting on and I am waiting on before I will give Q actual truth status. But Q is an egregore. The red MAGA hat has taken on itself to be an egregore. So Google the 100th monkey effect and you find aplenty. But put simply, think of it as how an idea, a narrative, or a message becomes accepted as truth. Now, it's a sociological theory. It dates back to a study in 1952 that followed the behavior of a hungry young female monkey living in the wild on a Japanese island. One day, this monkey had an idea. Washed the dirt-encrusted potatoes in a stream before eating them. This monkey's family watched curiously, then followed suit, then the playmates, then other families. One by one, the culture change spread. But it's what scientists reportedly observed next that was remarkable. The new idea went from being an exception, or a cult, when the 100th monkey copied the behavior. Suddenly, overnight, every monkey on the island took it as the norm. It is what is now described as the point at which critical mass had been reached, the tipping point for all other monkeys to follow suit. Now, the critical mass theory can be applied to almost every sociological change, big and small, not just in terms of a numbers game. That, to me, is an egregore. With social media, with cell phones, with YouTube, with apps, with radio, television, there is an actual war of egregores going on right now for our attention. Me personally, I don't really have a bunch of idols. I don't have heroes. I don't really look up to anybody. Because we're all frail, we're all fallen. There's really nobody I have confidence to look up to because I know at some point I will be disappointed, as I will disappoint as well. But The one egregore, in my view, that is the most powerful is the drive, the innate, intrinsic drive to be free, to have freedom, to be able to make your own choices, to have choices, meaningful choices, stuff that actually matters. So for me, my all-empowering egregore is freedom. I would almost go as far as to say patriotism. However, an argument, and I stand by this as well, argument can be made that our current government in its form not only hates the average American, it wants nothing to do with the average American but enslavement. So military is missing its recruitment numbers. Yeah. Anybody who signs up at this point, I would argue, is genuinely has a death wish. Fight for Israel in this scenario, where Israel itself hates everything about us. And what's interesting is Ron DeSantis, Trump, they pass all these anti-Semitism laws to protect Judaism and Jews. However, Jews are now passing a bill in Israel that says you will be imprisoned if you try to proselyte about Jesus, if you try to do missionary work amongst them about Jesus. So is turnabout fair play? Is our greatest ally really our greatest ally? Now, I will argue that the media, the Pharisees and Sadducees in control, they know the power of egregores, and they have ravaged the earth using egregores. Ukraine flag. I can look at what I would consider the non-thinkers of the world. I can do a quick scan of Twitter, and I can show just by the avatars they put in their profile what egregore is controlling and owning them. An egregore to me is something bigger than just a thought. It's just to liken it to Transformers and the Constructicons. They were 5 Transformers who could then combine to form a bigger entity. That to me is an egregore. Left versus right. That's another egregore. But even though I don't want to put myself under any of those umbrellas, what I think doesn't matter. It's how others interpret and perceive it. So just the color of my skin alone, I will be thrown into a camp based on other people's viewpoints and ideals of an egregore. White supremacist, just because I'm a white male and I'm hetero. That right there puts me in their opinion of an egregore. And I might even be using the term wrong, but that to me makes the most sense. People give channeled power to make something bigger than it might even actually be. But astroturfing, paying for it, all those, the money system. I guarantee the intelligence communities have set up and broadcast lies to so many people that they think something is more powerful or more real, and it is 100% a lie. They fund a concept and an idea for it to take hold. However, that is why when people who are organic humans, actual, in my opinion, children of God, when truth hits you, it hits you differently and you can discern it. You can wade through the nonsense and you can understand innately what is truth. Everybody's truth, everybody says that truth is everybody has a different perception of what truth is. I will argue not so. When we are exposed to actual fundamental 100% truths, we can understand them. But if you are not of the human bloodline, if you are not organic, if you are a creation of the state or synthetic, if you've seen some of my other videos, I do have a belief, cloning is real. I guarantee we are running around with people who do not have souls like us. And it would probably freak us out as to what actually they are and how they're being controlled and being ran. I can't prove it, of course not, but it is one of my hunches that I'm actually concerned to be right about. So egregores, these occult ideas that take hold, The only thing I can hope is that enough people get on the Egregore of freedom, that overarching idea will take hold. Until next time.